Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And despite a solid losers bracket run from OpTic Texas this tournament, they didn't quite get the result they wanted on the championship Sunday, losing their record over FaZe, and also a few key weaknesses shown throughout the team this weekend. OpTic given some thoughts on what they believe they need to fix up before the World Championship. Can they do so and make a run at this tournament? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that one. 4 majors so far this year. 4 different winners, of course. If one of these 4 teams, of course, well, one of these teams, Los Angeles Guerrillas, didn't even qualify, so they can't even possibly make the run of the World Championship. But, you know, still, if one of these teams does it, that'll be impressive. Like, right now, as it stands, like, there's been Toronto as well, and Huke subliners that won the kickoff and the prime, respectively. Like, you'd think there's going to be another winner on the horizon. And on current form, you can't really imagine it's going to be OpTic, right? Yes, they did have a very good confidence-building major here, all things considered. Top 4, I'm sure they'll take it. They can push on from that, definitely after a tragic set of qualifying matches. But, like, still, I'm sure looking at the top teams, the teams that won this event, they'll feel like they are still quite a way short of playing at that kind of World Championship winning level. Now, as Clay says, we can talk about Vanguard all we want. What a major, though, right? Quality storylines, matches, game 5s. Like, I mean, generally the crowd was fantastic, except for, you know, calling out the bomb diffuses, which we don't want to see. But, you know, in general, the energy was absolutely electric for New York and the OpTic guys as well. And even at the end, the credit given to Los Angeles Thieves after what a series that was pretty spectacular. Couple of bits of news, actually, just to mention here real quick, because, of course, this year's Call of Duty is Modern Warfare 2022 or whatever, developed by Infinity Ward. In 2 years' time, it's going to be the tryout game, which is why our understanding is we're going to play Modern Warfare 2 for 2 years in the next 2 seasons of the CDL. But yeah, the tryout game apparently is going to be set in the 1990s, Gulf War apparently, so yeah, just some rumours flying around about that one. And also just to mention this, because certainly relevant to the OpTic discussion, not sure I mentioned this already, but this is the clutch leaderboard after the series where Bance manages to clutch 2 1v3s in 2 different search and destroy maps up against OpTic. Insight still leads the way, Simp is here, Accuracy's here, Bance is here as well, but yeah, this is total 1v2 or above clutches this season, and yeah, a lot of names you might well expect to be the case. Dashy actually here with 5 1v2s so far this year as well, but Bance was leapfrogging a lot of people after those 2 1v3s up against OpTic last night. Now this also been formal, happy for you, my guy, well deserved to deal an Envoy. Of course, last year's, well, pretty much last year's OpTic Chicago team, the likes of, well, obviously you've got now OpTic and Scump and Dashy won an event so far this season on OpTic Texas back at Major 1. Now Envoy's won an event here at Major 4 on Los Angeles Thieves. Who knows if Formal will be able to get one in the Halo side sometime soon. Like, that'd be rather interesting to see, but I thought it was nice, well, kind of the camaraderie between these guys still there after what was a difficult last season, but Envoy's managed to turn it around clearly on this new roster. Chrome was talking about the fact that, okay, the CDL didn't seem so interested to show the trophy, but eventually they did get some nice pictures here with, well, the CDL said was a rather gruesome trophy, but not really sure I see that one when people are running around the map killing each other for a few hours over the course of the day. These were then the final results. Los Angeles Thieves take the victory, 200k to their name, 120k for New York in second, FaZe OpTic number 4. So honestly, all things considered, this is a slightly better run than I thought OpTic would have. I thought that maybe they would get top 6, and even then their losers bracket run was not easy, beating Rokkr in the way they did, taking down Boston Breach in the fashion they did as well, and Toronto Ultra. Like, they were far from easy series. They had to clutch up in all of them to get the job done, but they really couldn't do that against a team like FaZe that were just playing too well for OpTic right now. But honestly, after the way their qualifiers went, this is a reasonable run from OpTic. There is another world, of course, in which they come top 12 here and lose that series to Rokkr, but they showed some ice factor. Their search and destroy this tournament was good, but there were still a few glaring weaknesses, right? And the issue is that with Illy coming back into this team, it's been a bit difficult to get things back in the groove immediately. They seem to do that a little bit more this tournament, but realistically, you look at a team like, you know, even a team like Thieves, right? New York subliners, they're playing at a very high level, and there's only a couple of weeks for OpTic to really get back there after this event has concluded. Thought this is pretty funny as well in the crowd, to be honest. And Big Time was loving this as well. Honestly, whenever Big Time is making content again around Call of Duty, you just love to see it. Like, this is his reaction when they, of course, took down the Toronto Ultra in the series they played to get actually to top 4 and to the championship Sunday, but they will have to play Ultra again in the very first round of the winners bracket at the World Championship if you guys missed that one. So that's far from an easy matchup for OpTic either, but they did beat them here, so I'm sure that is going to give them some confidence. They did clutch up in the game 5, but a few kind of glaring issues really with this OpTic team, right? The FaZe series especially did expose them to a certain degree. I was wondering what happened really if OpTic did the same thing they did against all the other teams against FaZe. Would they get punished for it? That's pretty much exactly what happened, right? It was the Bacage game 1, a strange decision once again, but it's only a strange decision if their Berlin is actually good. If their Berlin is completely terrible, then it makes sense to go for the Bacage and try and take the 50-50. But in the FaZe series case, I felt like it was worth a go for the Berlin anyway, but they've really got to fix up their Berlin hardpoint, right? Some people said they were just trying to practice their Bacage. I don't really buy that, to be honest. Like, why would you try and, okay, you're trying to win an event, right? You're trying to win another event, become the first team this season not to do it. You're not just going to be sitting there practicing in your Bacage for the sake of reps and treating this like scrims when there's something this important on the line, I would say at least. So they've got a lot to think about there, but yeah, the Bacage is honestly kind of painful to watch OpTic at times. Maybe they feel like it's a 50-50 against the top teams, but they need to be better than 50-50. They can afford to be 50-50 in the respawns if their search is just godlike, but that's probably not going to be enough or consistent enough to actually win this. Now, iLLeY deserves a lot of credit here. He came back into this team and did incredibly well. Their search and destroy, look at this. 16 in 3 opening duels in stage 4. I believe maybe this didn't include the final series up against FaZe, but still, those numbers are crazy. And 12 in 1 at the major. Look at these numbers. First blood rate, iLLeY was 12 kills, 1 death in first bloods. 13 out of 16 of those first bloods converted into rounds. Only 2 were traded out. So that was very impressive. I think iLLeY especially had so much impact coming back into this team. And early on in the tourney, it was really Shotzzy that wasn't delivering. When he did start to deliver, then against the series from Boston and then onward in the latter half of that one, they did for a brief period of time look pretty spectacular. But then in the final series they played, it was really Scump that kind of had a difficult time. So did iLLeY. So did Dashy, honestly, in kind of a surprising fashion. But look, over the course of the weekend, Scump was still fantastic. He had a difficult final series. He's going to say that here in a second. Like, Attachers talk about people overgassing age in Call of Duty. And like, yeah, I just thought it was interesting, really, the fact that Scump, having competed for 12, 13 years since the Black Ops 1 days, is still able, like, all the people that he competed with back in the day, they're nowhere near, like, you know, where Scump currently is in terms of longevity, consistency. So, like, people are going to roast Scump for one bad series here, but he certainly doesn't deserve it. He's still been fantastic so far this season, and recently has probably looked like their best player at times. And if we know one thing about Scump, is that he always turns up at the World Championship, right? And he usually delivers a great performance. So if that is the case, and Shotzzy plays well, this OpTic team can still do damage, but they do need to fix their map pool. I think their map pool and their control are really the key issues this team's got to focus on. Scump does admit, terrible series from him, unacceptable, plays 4th onto champs, right? So he's realizing, look, if he plays better that series, maybe it's a different story. And there were a couple of moments in that control where maybe they can win the offense there and at least force a game 5, but if you're OpTic, you've really got to be winning at least one of the hard points in a series like this, and with the map pool the way it currently stands, they can't bet on themselves at all to win a hard point in a series unless it's Gavutu. A lot of teams just don't want to play OpTic on Gavutu because they're very good on it. Scump could run the AR and look like a monster at times. Rambo goes on to explain as well from his POV. He didn't really give any details on this yet, as with regard to, okay, why the Bacage hardpoint pick. I'm sure he's going to explain this one probably on stream over the coming days, but saying, you know, 2 weeks to prep for the big one, going to do everything possible to put ourselves in the best position to make a run for the ring. Rambo's been preaching all year about, okay, champs is all that matters, all this type of stuff, so we'll see if they can actually deliver, right? But I do think they have a fair bit to work on. This especially on the Bacage. I'm sure you guys saw this weekend. I think they were 1 in 4 in Bacages this weekend. They played it map 1 in every single series they played, which was surprising to me, just that they decided to chow this against a lot of teams, because Berlin, in my opinion, is probably a more skillful, strategic map, to be honest, right? Like, iLLeY was making some nice plays here early on, but like, Bacage is just a mess. But the teams that thrive in the chaos best are generally not the OpTic team. It just seems like teams like, yeah, FaZe, Seattle, even the New York Subliners, and a Boston Breach as well as a decent example also, because they're Vivid and Nero, that they can just take advantage of these situations. Doesn't seem like OpTic are, you know, particularly good at this map, right? They went 1 in 3. They did beat Toronto like 250, 245 on it, or some sort of crazy hard points. They won on this particular map, but I think that really they've got to think about not playing this, especially against a team like FaZe. You can do it against other teams, like they play Ultra round 1. I think like challenging Ultra on Bacage is perfectly fine, but challenging FaZe on Bacage, I don't really think that's the way you want to go. And they probably wouldn't have done this if their Berlin was good, and I guess they think their Berlin is terrible, because at the start of this season, they were awful at Berlin hardpoints, but they got away with it though, because their control was just absolutely impeccable. But as the season has progressed, they tried to say during stage 1, stage 2, like, look, we're going to bring Berlin hardpoint, we're going to bring Desert Siege, Search and Destroy into our map pool. 2 maps now that I don't really seem to want to play either, right? So I think this is the difficulty for OpTic, is that they said at the start of the season, they're going to work hard on Berlin, make it much better. They did get pretty decent at Berlin for a time, but now clearly they're not having a good time on it in scrims, and therefore they'd rather play FaZe on Bacage than they would play it on Berlin. Thought this is cool from Tyler, actually. He looked up the results this season for OpTic on Berlin hardpoints. Stage 1, they were 0 in 3 on Berlin. They lost a close series to Minnesota, but they lost twice to it to London. And then in stage 2, they went 2 in 2 on their Berlin hardpoints. They had a massive win against Thieves. And then in stage 3, they went 3 in 2 on it, right? And stage 4, they were 2 in 1. Now, a few of this was with Prolutes, but it was interesting actually that as the season progressed, they seemed to look okay on Berlin. But seemingly maybe with iLLeY back in the team, right? And I guess at the start of the season, they weren't good on it at all. Like, maybe they've now decided we're going to call it a day on Berlin, but they really can't afford to, because Berlin is such a critical part of a map pool. And the other problem is, of course, if Berlin control isn't a big map for OpTic either, then they're forced onto a Tuscan that they haven't looked that great on recently, and a lot of teams aren't going to challenge on Gavutu because no one likes playing it in control. But also, indeed, the fact that OpTic's control record went from, what, like 22 in 2 or something just outrageous at some point of the season, to now being about, what, 2 in 6 maybe in their last few controls. Like, yeah, that's not exactly where they want to be either. So the control is critical, I think, that when they were dominating, if they want to win an event, they've got to get the control back to that level. They at least need one other game mode, right? Because their hardpoint is like pretty suspect. Their control is not good right now. Their search and destroy has been great, but you need 2 game modes at least if you want to win champs. Ideally, hardpoint and search. Then you could just win every series. 3-1 or 3-2 doesn't even matter. But I think that is going to be big for their run, especially with the team they play, right? Because this matchup they had against Ultra a couple of days ago goes game 5 of round 11. Who's surprised at that one? Scrappy actually says, you know, his time is coming soon. So I doubt that Ultra are going to bring him in for the World Championship. It would be rather interesting. Like, I mean, look, he's got to play his own Challenger World Championships as well. And Ultra looked okay this event in the last few weeks, and Cammy individually was frying as well. So more than likely everything stays as it is, but Scrappy is expecting to be in the league at some point. And yes, OpTic do play Ultra at round 1 of the World Championship. A rematch of their game, they're probably going to go up on a Bakaj S&D. They're probably going to challenge this series in a similar way, but look, they're going to need to win the control, I think, in this series if they want to win it. Ultra are going to do incredibly hard preparation. Their staff behind this team is incredibly solid as well, so I think that Ultra will probably come into this series as marginal favourites, but we'll see how OpTic fare maybe in scrims the next couple of weeks if they start to see like they're getting Berlin back in their map pool, because if they can make a run, but if they don't, I just don't think they have a map pool deep enough, right? Because imagine they get to a grand finals, best of 9 grand finals, they've got to play a Berlin hardpoint, like a Bakaj hardpoint, a Desert Siege Search and Destroy, this type of stuff. Like, they're just not going to have a good time at all. So they've got to realise, Rambo's got to realise, I'm sure he does realise, that their map pool needs work. Couple of things to mention as we finish out the video. First of all, the All-Star voting is now open to determine who's going to be at the All-Star weekend. So there's going to be 2 teams. I think last time they did it where it's basically like a 1v1 tourney, but this time there's going to be an All-Star weekend, first and second team selections. Temp wants to get involved, so if you guys want to vote, feel free to head to this link and do exactly that. And I mean, yeah, here we go. Day 4 champions. It's Los Angeles Thieves winning the event. Remarkable scenes. And just to mention actually this as we close out the video, because one of the funniest storylines of this event, right, was that the doppelgangers in the crowd, there was actually way more than I even realized. We've got Paul Y here, we've got Larry, we've got Shameless, I thought it was pretty good, or like named, or, you know, whatever you wanted to say exactly. Ofro instead of Afro was pretty good. Stumpy, that actually does look like a lot like Scump, right? Minor Maniac, Scammy, Crim7, G-Cat was pretty good. I hadn't actually seen this one before. Lib instead of Simp, Tampon instead of Temp was pretty good. And then of course like the New York City ran instead of Cellium, right? I think there was even some other ones that were cropping up, so just remarkable scenes. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button, tell us the YouTube gods, this is a good video, others like you should see it as well, and I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.
Make some noise for Flawless, Hydra, Pisman, and... wait. Where's Crim? Hold up. Where's the man?